Breaking news. Ooh, man. Just woke up from a nap to some pretty exciting news. I gotta get more awake before I start talking. No, I still feel sleepy. So I woke up to some pretty incredible news here, and Pokemon Go, the official news, just brought up this. Alolan forms of Pokemon originally discovered in the Kanto region are coming to Pokemon Go. This is awesome. I am very hyped about this because these Pokemon are really cool. If you don't know what Alolan forms of Pokemon are, I'll go ahead and show you what they are. But basically, they're Pokemon from the Kanto region that we've already seen before that have genetically adapted to their environment. So because they're living on the Alolan Islands, which are based off of Hawaii, they look different, much different in some cases. They have different types, and they learn different moves. And they just generally are an awesome species of Pokemon. So let me show you what the rest of this post says. Trainers, sunny days are ahead. Whether your forecast calls for rain or shine, we're celebrating all around the world by introducing some special Pokemon from the tropical Alola region to Pokemon Go. Get ready for some of the Pokemon originally discovered in the Kanto region to appear in their Alolan forms. These unique variants were first seen in the Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon video games, and they will make their way to Pokemon Go in the coming weeks. Keep an eye out for news related to this exciting change, and don't forget to tell your friends. That's what I'm doing right now. That's right, you're my friends. Stay safe and happy exploring. Alright, so let's go over what these Alolan forms actually are, what they look like, what are the differences, and what we can expect in Pokemon Go, since Pokemon Go tends to do things a little bit differently than the main series games. I'll also go over some theories as to how these will be implemented. So let's jump right into this. The first Alolan form I have to go over is right here. This is the Alolan form of Rattata. So it looks like it's got a little bit of a mustache for its whiskers. But this is Alolan form Rattata. It's not only normal type like usual, but it's also dark type. So because it's normal and dark, it gives it some interesting circumstances in battle. Now, in the main series games, one type may actually not be able to do damage to another at all. For example, normal type moves cannot do any damage to a ghost type Pokemon, and vice versa. Ghost types cannot damage normals at all. There's also flying type, cannot take any damage from ground moves. Dark cannot take any damage from psychic moves. And there are other examples of this, but the reason I bring this up is because in the main series game, Rattata in its Alolan form is actually pretty interesting because he is somewhat defensive against specific types of Pokemon because he's normal type, he cannot take any damage from ghost moves, and he's dark type. He cannot take any damage from psychic moves. So it's kind of an interesting type matchup because it allows him to completely avoid damage from two types. This also allows Alolan Rattata to get stabs, which if you're not familiar with that term, that means same type attack bonus, where a Pokemon will do more damage with a move that is the same type as the type of the Pokemon. If you didn't already know that, it actually is in Pokemon Go. Pokemon do get stabs in Pokemon Go. Same type attack bonuses. This is why you may have heard things like, oh, Solar Beam isn't very good on Ho-Oh because it doesn't get a stab. And you're wondering, why are they talking about Ho-Oh walking around with a knife? They're not talking about stabs, they're talking about same type attack bonus. Now, Alolan Rattata will evolve into Alolan Raticate. This is what Alolan Raticate looks like. He's got some chubby cheeks, he's a little bit more well-fed than the original Rattata. I think he looks a little bit cooler. I like this Alolan form. So, same type here, normal and dark type, He can be defensive against specific types of Pokemon. Next up is Alolan Raichu. Alolan Raichu is electric type and psychic type. It uses its psychic powers to float on its tail like a surfboard. So Alolan Raichu pretty much is constantly levitating. Now, I'd say my favorite type of Pokemon is Psychic, which is followed very closely by Fighting. So, because Alolan Raichu is Psychic, I love this Pokemon. I like any Psychic type Pokemon, and I think it's really cool that they made a Psychic adaptation to this Pokemon. One interesting thing to note about Raichu is that it actually does not have an Alolan form of Pikachu. So, in Alola, you can catch a regular Pikachu, and as long as you're in the Alola region, it will evolve into an Alolan Raichu. There's no such thing as an Alolan Pikachu or an Alolan Pichu. Alolan Sandshrew. Alolan Sandshrew is Ice and Steel type. Completely different than its original version. Being a Steel type, it makes it very defensive since Steel type has the most defensive type matchups. But because it's also Ice type, it would actually take extra damage from fighting type moves since it's weak to both. And by the way, Raticate and Rattata also are taking extra damage from fighting type. Both normal and dark type are weak against fighting as well. Alolan Sandshrew evolves into Alolan Sandslash. Alolan Sandslash looks like this. He's got giant icicles on his back and his claws are made out of steel. Same thing. He is generally more defensive, but he will take extra damage from fighting type moves, so if you're using this Pokemon, be wary of that type matchup. Alolan Vulpix, another ice type Alolan form. This Vulpix uses ice moves and frost breath rather than shooting flames out of its mouth. Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales is also ice type as well as Vulpix, but it also gets a fairy type. Fairy and ice type, definitely a unique type combination. I don't think there are any other ice and fairy type Pokemon. This is the only one. And Alolan Ninetales looks awesome. A regular Ninetales tails are very flowy and majestic. This one is even more so. Alolan Diglett. It has a couple of hairs sprouting on its head. I don't know why. Alolan Diglett is ground and steel type. So again, steel making it a little bit more defensive. And I don't know if it's the hairs on its head that makes it steel type. Is it hairs that are made out of steel strands? I don't know. It's an interesting looking Alolan form, that's for sure. There's definitely more interesting looking ones, and one in particular everyone notes is a little bit odd. You'll see it here pretty soon. Alolan Dugtrio, also ground and steel type. It has even more hair, and it looks sort of like a 80s hairband or something. In the main series games, Alolan Diglett and Alolan Dugtrio had an ability called Tangling Hair, which made it to where when an opponent made physical contact with that Pokemon, they would be slowed, probably because they got tangled in their hair. And I don't know how you would get tangled in a Diglett's hair, because it's just 3 little strands, but hey, I guess, you know, Murphy's Law, right? Alolan Meowth. It is no longer normal type and it is only dark type. So now it gets stabs on moves that it used to learn already, like Bite and Crunch. Alolan Persian. It has a giant face. It's also dark type. Alolan Geodude. Alolan Geodude is still rock type, but instead of also ground, it's also electric. So it's a rock and electric type Pokemon. I believe that these hairs and his eyebrows are attached to his body magnetically. Alolan Graveler, still rock and electric. Looks like he's gotten a little bit of more facial hair, thicker eyebrows, and even some arm hair. It's going through puberty. And Alolan Golem, still rock and electric. It's gotten a little bit more magnetic facial hair, full mustache and beard, and it actually has a cannon on its back that it can launch boulders out with its magnetic powers. Alolan Grimer. It's poison and dark type. So normally Psychic would be a good move type to use against Grimer because it was poison, but now that it's dark, it's actually not a very good type matchup. Alright, only 3 more forms to go over here. Alolan Grimer does evolve into Alolan Muck. It's got some pretty cool rainbow colors, and when the Pokemon is animated, rather than a still picture like this, the colors are actually flowing around the Pokemon, so it's a very psychedelic looking Pokemon. Alolan Muck is still Poison and Dark type. Alolan Marowak. There is no Alolan Cubone, but if a Cubone evolves while it's in Alola, it will become an Alolan Marowak. Again, totally different type combination. Instead of ground type, it is now ghost and fire type. I believe it's supposed to embody some sort of spirit that has its club ignited with spirit fire. It's supposed to represent a certain Hawaiian dance where they will dance with objects that they've lighted on fire. And last but not least, Alolan Exeggutor. You can't quite tell from this picture, but this guy is huge. I think a 6-foot person reaches just to his hip there, like at his tail. So this is a massive Pokemon. Obviously, it's supposed to be a palm tree Exeggutor rather than a short and stubby tree like a regular Exeggutor. And it's interesting because instead of psychic type, it's actually grass and dragon. It's a dragon palm tree with legs and a coconut tail. Also, apparently this Pokemon goes absolutely berserk if you engage with its tail, so if you ever see one out there in Pokemon Go, don't mess with its tail. It gets pretty pissed off. Alright, so what does this mean for Pokemon Go? How are these changes going to be implemented into Pokemon Go? Well, one general rule of thumb with Niantic is don't make too many educated guesses because it's not necessarily obvious how they're going to implement Pokemon into their game. So here's some things I'm thinking about. First of all, Alolan forms are a completely different form of that Pokemon, so I do not believe that Pokemon will change their form into an Alolan form after they've already been caught, or vice versa. So I think you actually would have to catch a Alolan Meowth as that form, and there would be no way to change your regular Meowths into an Alolan Meowth. Another thing to consider is evolutions around these Alolan forms. So again, Alolan Meowth as an example. It's probably going to take 50 candies to evolve. That seems pretty standard by now. If a Pokemon evolves once and it's not some specially rare Pokemon, then it's going to probably just take 50 candies to evolve. Now, for something like Alolan Marowak or Alolan Raichu, where its previous forms are not different, I don't actually know how they're going to implement this. It could be that it simply just brings up a different option in the menu. You can evolve it either into a regular Raichu or an Alolan Raichu. It's also possible that Niantic may go crazy with this mechanic and make it to where your Pikachu will only evolve into an Alolan Raichu if you're in Hawaii, or maybe if you're just on an island. I don't know. It's really hard to tell what Niantic is going to do with these sort of things. I'm actually not going to be surprised if these Pokemon are revolved around Hawaii after the event ends, because this news that they just brought us told us that there's going to be a worldwide event, regardless of whether that these Alolan forms are starting to appear, and then after that, who knows where they're going. But because Niantic definitely is not afraid to make certain Pokemon only appear in certain regions, I mean, you know that we already have region-exclusive Pokemon, and in the 3rd gen, they over doubled the amount of regional exclusive Pokemon, so it's not that hard to believe that they may make Alolan forms region exclusive for Hawaii. To some degree. Maybe it's just some of them that are more Hawaii based. So Alolan Marowak, for example. The fire dancing is a Hawaiian tradition, so maybe it'll stay in Hawaii. Maybe Alolan Exeggutors will only show up near coastlines. It's really hard to tell, but we'll just have to see how they implement this. Well, I'm really excited about this event. Alolan forms are really cool. I think you guys are going to enjoy them a lot. If you guys have any questions about these Alolan form Pokemon, please drop a comment below, and I'll be sure to answer any questions you have regarding these Alolan form Pokemon. So thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, get notified, and I'd also like to hear what your guys' favorite Alolan form Pokemon is. Drop a comment below, let me know what it is and why. If you're curious what mine is, I'd say it's probably Alolan Raichu. I love psychic types, and I think it's super cool that it flies around on its tail. Awesome Pokemon. Alright guys, catch you later.